So it's 30 years this year since the Premier League was formed, and since I don't have many original ideas, here's the all-time 11. And no, this isn't just my all-time 11, this is actually factual. There was a study done not too long ago in honor of 30 years of the Premier League, and the 11 I'm about to present were actually scientifically proven as the best team of that time span. You heard right, scientifically proven. I am not joking. Go search it up. Goalkeeper. Honorable mentions. Check your semen. Check and semen. Final pick. Peter Schmeichel. Almost 2 decades since the man retired, and still this was one of the easier picks. Peter Schmeichel played in the Premier League for 7 years, helping Manchester United win 5 league titles during that period, mainly by doing 3 things: making big saves in important moments, commanding his box like no goalkeeper since, and of course, shouting at Gary Neville. Speaking of which, right back. Honorable mentions Lee Dixon and Gary Neville. Final pick. Trent Alexander-Arnold. While Gary was miles better defensively, I think that's partly because of the eras they played in, and I'm sure if Trent was born 20 years earlier or Gary 20 years later, they would have adapted accordingly. But putting that to aside, I picked who I believed had a bigger impact on their team performance, and that's Trent. Right centre back, aka the classy centre back. Honourable mentions Vincent Kompany and Virgil van Dijk. Final pick, Rio Ferdinand. Another very tough decision, but this time it's a triple threat. But in the end, Rio wins out purely because of how ahead of his time he was in terms of his ability on the ball as a centre back. And to be fair, even after his back began giving away around 09, he remained the mainstay in teams that won a further 2 Premier League titles. And despite the game having evolved since Rio's heyday, I still actually don't think we've seen a better centre back on the ball since. Left centre back, aka the physical centre back. Honourable mentions Tony Adams, Nemanja Vidic and Sol Campbell. Final pick, John Terry. Captain, leader, legend, and just in general the most likable man in the world. There is no denying that John Terry was an absolute warrior on the pitch, giving his all in every game, defending like his life depended on it, and don't get me wrong, he scored every now and then too. Left back, honourable mentions Dennis Irwin and Patrice Evra. Final pick, Ashley Cole. Honestly, this is a lot closer than you young people think. Dennis Irwin is possibly the greatest left back in Manchester United's history, and his consistency as a fullback was almost unrivaled in the Premier League. Almost. And invincible, as well as another former Chelsea player in contention for the Mr. Popularity title. There was a certain period of time in his peak where Ashley Cole was the undisputed best left back in the world. You see, there's a reason why despite their underwhelming performances in big tournaments, England's golden generation was still defensively solid most of the time. And a huge reason behind this was Ashley Cole, who along with Bex was one of the only few players who managed to bring their club form into the international stage. And speaking of Bex, right midfield. Honourable mention, yeah, Bex. Final pick, Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah, I can fanboy over Bex as much as I want, but it'd be a crime to overlook the man who replaced him at the Theatre of Dreams. For his first 3 years in the Premier League, Ronaldo was very much a stop-start winger who hugged the sidelines and did way too many step-overs. And despite having some brilliant moments then, he truly took off in the 06-07 season, becoming the best dribbler in the world. This was then followed by the historic 07-08 season where he became the best player in the world. And after leaving Manchester and taking his career to levels never before seen, he has since returned home and will very soon add the Premier League 100 club to his ridiculous list of records. Unparalleled. Defensive / box-to-box midfield. Honourable mentions N'Golo Kante, Claude Makelele, Yaya Toure, Gareth Barry, Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira. Final pick, Paul Scholes. This position is stacked. But to be fair, at the end, the decision wasn't too difficult. Why? Because I'm a chicken. You see, instead of putting myself in a position where I'd have to choose between Kante and Makelele or between Keane and Vieira, I just kicked them all out. So why Paul Scholes? Well, easy. He's the best midfield orchestrator the Premier League has ever seen. Though he initially began way further up the pitch, almost as a second striker at times, Scholes easily played his best football in his 30s when he transitioned into a deeper role. Picking up the ball from the defence and starting attacks via 1-2s or one team splitting pass, Scholes simply ran the show. Curry ran the show right up until his retirement. He then sat at home for a year, presumably trying to figure out what is a bigger health risk, having an asthma attack at 40 or watching Tom Cleverley repeatedly try to pass a f***ing ball, eventually deciding to run it back once again. Attacking / box-to-box midfield. Honourable mentions: David Silva, Steven Gerrard, Cesc Fabregas, Frank Lampard. Final pick: Kevin De Bruyne. Similar to the CDM situation, I chickened out of picking between Gerrard and Lampard by simply leaving both out and once again going for a generational gem of a gentle ginger genius instead. You're welcome. Initially offloaded by Chelsea for, checks notes, £2.57, De Bruyne returned to England, but this time in the blue of Manchester City in 2015 to win, as of recording, 3 Premier League titles and become one of the best players in the world. It's just sad that while his efforts did bring the club tremendous success on the pitch, it could do little to nothing about the failure in the stands. Left midfield. Honourable mentions: Eden Hazard, Gareth Bale, Robert Pires, and the most honourable human being ever, Ryan Giggs. Final pick: Mohamed Salah. When Salah returned to England in 2017 with Liverpool, he had a point to prove, and boy did he, breaking the most goals in a 38-game season in his first campaign back. He has since led Liverpool to a 6th Champions League as well as the first Premier League title, and this isn't even the end. He seems to be getting even better this season. May Allah keep you going, brother. Second striker / centre forward. Honourable mentions: Eric Cantona, Dennis Bergkamp, and Wayne Rooney. Final pick: Thierry Henry. Despite the insane level of competition, this wasn't really a tough choice either. And that's simply because to me, this man is the greatest player the Premier League has ever seen. As big of a genius Arsene Wenger was, there was no way he could have envisaged just the player Thierry Henry would become. Not only did he score 175 goals, he was also unbelievably unselfish, racking up a further 74 assists. This man was a perfect blend of individual brilliance and a world-class team player, and because of this, Henry will always be the king of Highbury. Main striker / centre forward. Honourably mentioning that you should really subscribe to mention, please. Honourable mentions: Didier Drogba, Jamie Vardy, Harry Kane, and Alan Shearer. Final pick of the team: Sergio Aguero. Yup, none of the 3 biggest individual record holders in the Premier League make my final team. You see, what decided it for me between Big Al and his favourite Premier League import is Aguero's response to Pep wanting him out. A player of that calibre putting his ego aside and changing his style to suit the manager, and by the way, doing so successfully while keeping his record for best goals to minute ratio. Wow. Also, yes, let's not forget that moment which many call the greatest in Premier League history. And no, I'm not one of them because, you know, Nonetheless, Aguero is amazing and I wish him good health and a happy retirement. And that is that. Agree or disagree? Beats indifference. Once again, please like, comment and share. And of course, subscribe. Till next time, you keep rolling.